Welcome to another Revivalcast. This show, we've got a few things planned, but mostly revolving around the blog this week, kind of because a lot of stuff was going on the same topic. So that's the plan for today. I'm going to do it a little bit differently today because it's been coming back into Revivalcast and getting back into the swing of things, and also I'm kind of figuring that, you know, as Revival continues to grow, more people are going to run into the show, perhaps on YouTube, and not be aware of what it's about and all that. So just giving people a quick overview of Revival, and it being a storytelling game really focused on an immersive world, evolving online world is what it's been kind of talked about as being. So that's kind of the gist of it, and I'm also going to pass it around to each of our co-hosts here and let them give you a quick little background of kind of, you know, who they are and what how they came across Revival, or how you can know them through Revival. So I'll pass it over to Cheshire first.
Come back to me, sorry. Oh, tripping over myself here.
Alright, well then I will pass it over to Neuro. Go ahead.
Alright, so Revival is something that I first learned about actually through Theory Forge. So I've been a part of Theory Forge since the very beginning, and Theory Forge, if anybody isn't aware, it started after SOE Live 2014. We all came together. It's like, man, we should start a talk show together. A few different people wanted to start talk shows together, and one thing led to another. And show formed. We lost a few people over the year, and added a couple folks on. So it's been kind of an interesting sort of thing. It's been a lot of fun. And I guess more than 31 weeks ago, so we've had a few weeks off. But, you know, a while back, we came across Revival and said, well, this is kind of what we were looking for. We were originally invested in the idea of EverQuest Next and Landmark, the idea of the next-gen MMO, something that's trying to take things to another direction. So naturally, the Meow, the multiplayer evolving online world, that is a really, really intriguing concept to us. So we got involved. We've been kind of following it since. So I've been, you know, in chat most of the time, most of the episodes, and kind of following how things have been going, having a lot of fun with it. And I guess the one other place that you might spot me is every now and then, if you ever watch the DOP crew Saturday night streams, I've been playing with Snipe Hunter and Ombwa and whoever they've got going with them. Sometimes
those are the devs for Revival, by the way.
Yep, and they're I believe they're even in chat here. How's it going, fellas? We were playing Vermintide last night. We've been playing a lot of multiplayer games together, and it's a blast. It's really fun to see how they approach gameplay, their methodology, how they strategize and stuff. And it's just a lot of fun with that sort of stuff. Definitely check it out, the DOP Crew channel on Twitch. So, plug for my homies there. Anyway, that's about it. I've been, you know, I don't have much other things to say on it. Diggs, I guess that's going to you then.
Sure. I'm Diggs. I used to be the localization manager for Activision, so I've been in the gaming industry for a while, or had been. I've been out for about 10 years now. And I've been looking for a next generation MMO for a few years now. We were hoping that was going to be EverQuest Next, but I think that's going to take a little bit longer than we expected, and we aren't getting a lot of information updates about that development right now. So our Theory Forge Fridays have broadened out to a more general discussion, theory forging about MMORPGs in general. And I think it was Valix's guildmates who discovered Revival just about 9 months ago or so, and we all jumped on board in February. Found information from the dev.
Think we're losing Diggs, cutting out a little bit. Yeah, as Diggs was saying, that's where I found out about Revival. was from a few guests, which if you guys have been following these episodes, early on we had Astral Echo and Cicera. So they were kind of the people who showed me Revival and got me just totally addicted to it, hooked on it, already, the concept of it anyways, and what's going on with it. So that's where I came in, and I write for 10tonhammer.com, and then also getting really active on the forums again now, or trying to, so you guys can see me there, but other words, find me on this show. And I'll pass it over to Cheshire, who might be ready now. You ready?
I am totally ready now.
All right.
All right. Yeah, I'm Cheshire, the walking train wreck. See, I found out about Revival actually through this other game Ilphonic worked on, Star Citizen, that's still in production right now or whatever, being developed. Somebody had linked a blog of another project that Ilphonic was working on there, and it happened to be the Revival sex blog.
Ka-ching.
Being the clickbait that was, I clicked on it, and it kind of led me here, and it turns out there's a whole lot more to this game than just the sex stuff. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm crazy excited to start really just exploring the world, I guess, even though I'm more of a bunker down in the city type player.
Oh man, I just gotta ask Roundtable real quick, and when Diggs comes back, we're definitely gonna have to bug him about it. But Crown's Rock, want to have a place there, want to stay there, want that to be your mainstay, or are you like, nah, I want to get the hell out of there as soon as I can?
I personally, I want to get out of Crown's Rock. I don't know. There just seems to be other places that are higher on my, I guess, interest list. Cities that I would be more compatible in, like Congarai. I mean, come on, I love PvP, and that seems to be the only city thus far that seems to be pro in solving your own problems like that, rather than having laws and rules take care of all that stuff for you. I don't know. I prefer to take care of things myself, I guess. Even if that does mean, having to smash somebody's head into the pavement.
And for me, Crown's Rock looks really interesting, but I'm totally a drifter type, so I don't see myself setting up shop or home anywhere in particular. Actually, I'm kind of plan on, if I do have property, like renting it out to provide myself some sort of passive income that I can get for kind of doing nothing but having bought the property, so letting people rent that for super cheap or something like that. And then I just think I'm excited for boats. I want to get a little combat vessel and use that as my home, even though it isn't really probably equipped to be a home. But yeah, I'll be sailing the seas a lot, I think, and drifting around the various lands of Delison. So pretty interested to see what else pops up.
Navy.
I mean,
I've seen enough water on the horizon.
Well, I could understand that, but at the same time, don't you think there's some amount of advantage you'd be able to apply real world skills with, or?
Oh yeah, I think I might have an advantage on the ocean, but it's at the same time, there's other things I want to see with the game.
I can understand. My buddy quit Shenmue because he was playing the part in the box factory. He's like, man, I do this with my day job. I'm quitting it. I don't need to do this for 8 hours. Video game. So yeah, no, I understand you. For me, Crown's Rock just seems like a dirty, shady, seedy place. Not very dignified. Not a good place to have what I'd really like to have. And I'm, probably going to throw down a serious coinage. I'm looking to have a kind of a combination of a pantheon of the gods sort of temple. That's also my forge for making things for the gods. But that's the other. That's one character. The other one's just going to be this brutal, like berserker. You see them, you're in trouble. Call for help. You're dead.
One thing I was thinking about doing, because I intend to play a necromancer ultimately, and I'm like, the current cities, even Conjurai, they're probably not going to be too, cool with me doing any of that. So I was looking at that document Snipe Hunter dropped like a month ago now, wasn't it? About creating your own city, colonizing regions. And I was thinking of maybe setting up shop in maybe the ruins of Kalaja or something like that, trying to revive those places. That might be something I'd be able to get behind there.
All right, so we'll keep waiting for Diggs, but he might be coming back right now.
No, I just sent an invite to try to get him back here.
All right, so we'll start diving into kind of the first bit of this bigger storytelling. Storytelling is a huge topic. I mean, you could talk about any number of things. I think when we were kind of discussing the show topic, Neuro threw out at least 10 or 12 different subtopics. So, I mean, it's something you can go anywhere on, and Diggs has returned.
Yeah.
So
let's ask Diggs real quick. Is his answer Crowns Rock? Are you going to stay in Crowns Rock, or do you want to go somewhere else as soon as you can? And it's hard to answer because I know you've got like 19 answers on that situation.
No, because 20 of my characters are in Crowns Rock,
20.
and one of them will be in Anakatha near Kanskarai if I can do the stuff that I want to do with that character. That character might turn out to be my main if I can do what I'm hoping to be able to do, and then I'll be scaling back on the other 20 alts. But the plan has been to have all my characters in Crowns Rock, but we got this lore bomb back in August, at the end of August, that kind of changed up everything. So I think ostensibly I'll have to see what the homes are going to be like for the Garavi tribes, and that'll dictate whether or not I try to get some kind of home there for that character.
Gotcha. Okay. Very cool. All right. Storytelling, good sir.
Yes. So the kind of the first topic that I picked that I thought would be kind of most applicable, at least at the beginning of this discussion for Revival, was what makes a good story. And there's actually no right answer for this whatsoever. Everybody has their personal taste, which is why I thought it would be a good way to round robin and see what, to you guys each personally, makes a good story to you. And you don't have to go into details of Revival yet specifically. Just talk about storytelling in general. What do you like about it? What makes a story stand out to you personally? So I will pass it over to. I'm gonna let Diggs go first. That way, while we have him, in case the camera hiccups again. Go ahead.
What makes for a good story? I just want to be able to be engaged in the story. So my favorite MMO story, this almost makes me mention my favorite single-player MMO, which is Kingdoms of Amalur: Reckoning. That in that game, I felt most like a thief or rogue than any other online RPG or computer CRPG ever. So that had the best story, but that had me constantly engaged throughout. And the mechanics of the classes made me actually feel like I was most like a thief. Other than that, what was I going to say before that? Oh, my favorite storyline in an MMORPG is the Cataclysm storyline in World of Warcraft. Part of that storyline had Mount Kejul on fire, that zone on fire, and the storyline had us dousing that fire and bringing life back to the forest there. And my character was a druid, so in an MMORPG, that's my favorite storyline there. It had me engaged. the most important part for a story is just to keep me constantly active and able to feel like I'm playing the role of my character, whatever role I happen to have chosen. So I don't know that there needs to be a specific type of story. There just needs to be enough activity, enough supporting abilities. What I'm looking forward to is having NPC lives evolve so that if I save a certain character, if I save the farmer's farm from being destroyed, later I can go back and see how that has helped the farmer prosper, maybe see the farmer's daughter find a boyfriend and later have them get married or become a couple, have children, see their lives evolve. So that even if there's not a major story going on at the time or a major event, I can do little things like go back and find a NPC that I've interacted with before and see how their lives have changed.
Gotcha.
Go ahead, Neuro, take it up. You can follow that up with your thoughts on story.
Oh, well, I mean, there's a few different things. It really comes down to the consequences of how the story is being presented, for one thing, and there's a lot of different ways to do that. So I think of, like, if we're talking MMOs in particular, there's the theme park approach that, there's a lot of things going on, but it's the same things going on for everyone all the time. And you might see some NPCs a few different times throughout the world. They're in all those cities at all times. It just so happens that when you get to the city, they welcome you as if, they were there waiting for you or something. But then when you go back to their home at the beginning of the game, they give you the beginning of the game script. Or maybe, if they're smart enough, they actually script that NPC out of that area, so you only get to talk to them in that area at that time. That's, like, very rare. So the theme park, that's one way to do it. And I can't really think of what theme park game I enjoyed the story most with. I think the one that I've kind of been enjoying, I've been playing it a lot recently, is Defiance, because there's this entire TV show. I haven't really watched all 3 seasons, so there's a lot of stuff for me to learn about the game without playing the game, but watching quality content instead of reading, potentially questionable and conflicting stuff from a variety of authors. So there's a lot to be said with that. And for me, the game, it is a theme park, but it's got good gunplay. I like the vehicle mechanics. I like the fact that people are kind of like automatically grouping up in a lot of situations. And, it's easy for me to play, so whatever. It's satisfying. Now, sandboxes, that's another sort of game, something where it's a really open sort of thing. And I think of, like, Ultima Online and how they tried to do story. Unless you're pursuing, like, the Path of Virtues or whatever, basically there really wasn't much of a story. It's, it's basically like playing Rust or Ark or something like that. There isn't that much for you to do, except every now and then the devs would have an event like, oh, this town's being taken over by these orcs with crossbows. And they'll beat the hell out of you, but if you take them down, they got piles of that blue gold that's worth a lot more. So, people will rush down there and get a piece of that, and once the event's over, they'll never do it again. So, that's, I guess, kind of a start of trying to do something in more of a sandbox environment, but it definitely seems like it does either have to revolve around constant dev hosted events, or otherwise that beyond the fact that it is a sandbox, there have to be kind of quests that exist in the world, and whoever completes it first, it's done. You might have completed part of it and be recognized to some extent for attempting, but that's the sort of thing where you can't really have change unless things are actually happening, and once it's done, it's done. You don't need 50,000 steel anymore. You don't need this dragon on the mountain or whatever that's ruining the Imperial mines or whatever. You don't, once it's dead, it's dead. It's not going to respawn. Another one's not coming there. So then the other one, this is kind of a weird example, but it's kind of a third example I'm given, and I really like the way it worked in practice, is Planetside 2. So in game, they don't really talk about story at all. There's the faction narrators or whatever that they'll have their announcements or whatever, and the NC, they're dirty mercenaries, so their stuff is about like hostile takeovers and paychecks and pay raises and bonuses. The Terran Republic's a little bit more like, the proud empire, whatever, and, you're serving the empire proudly, whatever. And the Vonu sovereignty, it's a little bit more like this, alien, spacey sounding sort of dude, with like a weird kind of gruff voice, and he's talking about all of this, like, space Vonu related stuff, and almost a little cultish, but that's who I've been playing as for, since before Planetside 2, so yeah, it works for me. But the way that the story is written and the way that it's presented is all of the lore that was presented before the game was released. So by the time the game launches, all the trash talking that goes on, it isn't just, screw you, yo mama, this and that. It's very faction specific stuff. It's like, oh, you freaking Barneys and your lasers, or, it was Barneys, Elmos, and I can't remember what the other one was back in the day with the first Planetside. It was Banana Men or whatever, because NC had a lot more yellow in their armor. But it basically permeates all of gameplay. Most trash talk ends up being like faction related, whether it's talking about the balance of the game or just like, you guys suck because you're, stupid mercenaries or whatever. So that part, the story, it's not a game where story really makes sense. So having it outside the game and having it permeate, and then the other reason why it works is because you're not a hero. You're not like the Avatar or whatever. You're not, you're not the guy. So being just one unit in this massive battle that you can rank up or whatever and earn merit, but you're never going to be like so powerful that you just walk in a situation and you kill 50 people like it's nothing, and it's like, oh, I'm a raid boss now. That doesn't happen. So I think I've blabbed enough about story here and the way it's presented, and those are some of the different examples that I've really liked over the years for how, for a sandbox, for a theme park, and for something where it's not even in the game.
Yeah. Cheshire, go ahead and give us kind of some of the storytelling elements you think are important and make a good story, and then I'll give my take, and then we'll dive into kind of the next topic.
Smurfs, they were Smurfs. That's right.
I'm more of a character person, I guess. If I don't have believable characters to interact with, I get bored so quick. I don't know. It's just something I really enjoy doing. Like I mostly enjoy multiplayer games, but when I play like RPGs offline, like the Dragon Age games and whatnot, I like to have characters that can kind of simulate being people, actual people, So that's something I care a lot about when it comes to a story, is the actual characters in the story, and that they can actually seem like real people to me, I guess, is the way to put it. I hate seeing just like, hey, I'm Ted, I'm a farmer, I farm pumpkins, that is all I ever do kind of characters. Like you might get that in World of Warcraft as a quest giver. It's literally all there is to their character. But then I don't know, I just like digging into characters.
For me, there's always the example I go back to for if you're going to make an NPC, if you at least go to like the fundamentals, Stanislavski's 7 questions for actors in the scene. Who am I? Where am I? When? What do I want? Why do I want this? How will I achieve my goal? And what must I overcome? If there's at least all of those things applied to every character in the world at all times, then everybody is a rounded character. Everybody has meaning. Everybody has purpose. Everybody has a goal. And there can be many layers of that. There can be more of the immediate, what am I doing right now, as well as more of like, what do I want to do? I'm a rural farmer, but I want to move to the big city and sell chocolates or whatever, whatever it is, and then you can help them towards that goal or that purpose. or otherwise sabotage them, if that's what you're trying to do.
Yeah. Well, I think one example was in the human starting area of WoW, there were actually two farming families that had some history with each other. And it was kind of a Romeo-Juliet type thing, two feuding families, but, like, I guess the son from one family was in love with the daughter from the other family kind of deal. I can actually remember those quest givers, but, like, I most of the other quest givers were, what, guards? And I don't remember anything about them, really, other than that, yes, I worked for some guards. There's just nothing really to their character other than, hey, I'm Frank, I'm a guard, I watched this bridge. That was their character. That was it.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah, that's great.
You
Frank.
had mothers that you had to help find their sons. You had the one mom, I think, in the Torren area who was by the well, or maybe she was lost or something, so you had to go find her for the son. There are lots of other characters besides just guards, but the problem is that they're static. So in the general case, they're going to have two states, one before they asked you to take up the quest, and one after you completed the quest, and that would be it. And if you're really lucky, then that one character might have, a 5-quest storyline or something like that. But, the problem with those is that they're static, so you're going to run through them fairly quickly and be done with them.
Yeah, for me, I was going to say, for me personally, like, I've always been big on characters as well. Like, having characters that have some depth has always been about... It's really been the functional element of good storytelling to me. Obviously, you need, a good plot as well. But I think what I've been noticing, recently and kind of catching on to, at least being more consciously aware of, is that, well, I wrote a thing about the Forgotten Realms, I think almost 2 weeks ago, about a week and a half ago. And I got to kind of sit down and talk about the way I first came across one of R.A. Salvatore's novels for the Forgotten Realms and kind of how I got introduced to that realm. Anyways, when I looked back and I started kind of analyzing what actually hooked me, was, the elements of real life storytelling that were captured by the characters or the plot or whatever. The first book I was introduced to in that world was Streams of Silver by R.A. Salvatore, and two of the major issues on the back cover of that, when you first just do a general reading of the back cover, you have Driz being a dark elf on the surface, now established for already a book. So this is the second book of his story that existed at that time, and he's dealing with racism. And then you have the female character Canterbury, which she's one of the companions. She played an extremely minor role in the previous book, and so R.A. Salvatore is increasing her role in the next book. So you're looking at this female character that the actual whole group is having to rely on and counting on her to come through. So it kind of establishes this unique female lead and race. And to me, like, I realized when I went back and analyzed that, of course I didn't think these things at that time. I was just like, oh, cool book, and I was like 14 years old and I was reading it, but when I look back, that was the real hook, It could have been any characters. It could have been, a different plot, a variant plot, but the fact that there's real issues that people today, are always dealing with, just conveying that, I think, is what makes, what can make good story. And it's something that you haven't, when you look at games, some games do it. Some games do it really well. Usually they're single-player games because you're afforded more opportunity to tell a story when you're able to direct a single-player's experience. But multiplayer games, you don't see a whole lot of it. I actually was recently playing Divinity Original Sin, the Enhanced Edition, this past weekend with a friend. And I was actually really impressed by the way they did story in that as like a multiplayer and co-op game, because you can actually set an AI personality type for your character, because all their dialogue is like voice acted, so you're going to have preset responses and stuff like that. But you get to pick an AI personality or not one. You can or can't, and your character will give you a couple options. But anyways, the interesting thing was when I was with my friend, we had picked different like personality types or whatever, and we were going through the game, and we came to a part where, staying true to our two characters, they totally butted heads. So like, and the interesting thing in Divinity Original Sin, it actually pits you like you actually converse with each other as characters on what you should do when you get like faced with a choice, a big choice. So we actually disagreed. So you kind of go back and forth and try and persuade each other like once or twice. But then when it's pretty clear that you're just not going to be choosing the same, you get to do this little rock paper scissors type thing. But it's just kind of a stand-in for making sure that a choice is made. So they do the rock paper scissors thing, but then in the context of the story, the one character who won kind of puts the thing out there like, no, we're doing it this way. So it was a really clever way to do that and still afford a way to create a really in-depth story where people are going on a planned story, a thematic or a theme park styled play, and get to do that. So I thought it was really interesting to me, and I just barely touched on it, so I haven't got to see any of the deeper themes yet. But anyways, I just thought I'd mention it as a really cool example that I noticed this past weekend. But I do want to push on into the next bit. I was kind of like wanting to broach this topic. This is like, what do we think are good storytelling elements, so it could kind of set us up for what we're going to talk about in the developer blog and afterwards. So that's the next topic. The developer blog, I think everybody probably read it, I'm sure. But it was really interesting. Basically a scary story that Ombwa wrote for talking about a doll maker. Well, not even talking about a doll maker, talking about a third party that got to witness a doll maker and got to witness, some atrocious act that they didn't even realize, was at the time, but really kind of setting the tone of some things that we might experience or the type of environment that Deliston will offer, just some intriguing, horror that'll be in there. So I'll pass it around. You guys can tell me about, or share with everybody kind of what stood out to you. Maybe pick one thing that really stood out to you from the blog and expand upon that.
For me, it was the part where, like, maybe I read it too fast or missed something, but there's something about him being unconscious and there being a fire, and it's like, wait a minute, when the heck did all of that happen?
Yeah. Let's see. I honestly, I actually had some nightmares. I spoke easily. that blog creeped the hell out of me, and I did not
thought
sleep.
It was all about her.
No way. But no. Thing that stuck out to me, I guess, the most, going back to characters again, was that mute guy at the or supposedly mute guy at the orphanage. It's like I kind of got hung up on him. I wanted to know more about him, but no, the story never went back to him, at least not obviously. For all we know, that mute guy could be the doll maker as well. At least that's one theory.
Yeah. That's what jumped out. I'm going to jump in too, because that's kind of what stood out to me, as well as throughout the whole thing. I kind of wondered, he introduces the orphanage and talks about it a little bit, and you get, greeted by this nice person who's running it, and then all of a sudden, after a couple weeks, and more kids disappear, all the friendliness of that place goes away, and all of a sudden it's just a cold place. So it makes you wonder, first of all, is the orphanage involved in it? Was the orphanage involved in it? Second, if it was involved in it, was that first character that you met, the nice lady, unaware of what was going on behind the scenes, or was she aware and maybe she just got sick of it, or got, just disgusted by it and left? It leads kind of a ton of questions into, what role did they play? Did they know anything, and how did that go? So it just like starts opening all these doors. So that just immediately stood out to me as the part of the blog that I just had to, I had to know more about. It was less about, oh, what did he do after he found out, and more about what else is going on behind the scenes.
I mean, for me, the other thing is this could all have been a combination of like an illusion and some sort of fever-induced hallucination over a long period of time, or what he thought was a fever-induced hallucination over a long period of time. That's the other thing, is the way that it's written, the way that like everything unfolds by the end of it. It seems so abstract. It's like, that none of that could have even actually happened. And when he finally goes to the the place later on or whatever, the fact that it's boarded up, it was always boarded up. Those kids were never there. So that's kind of one other angle I've been thinking about with it.
It's kind of classic Lovecraftian storytelling, though. You have a person who's writing about his past after he's spent some time in an asylum and describing the events that a lot of people don't necessarily believe. But he experienced some form of magic that drove him mad, which is the foundation of magic in Revival. Experiencing things that break the human capacity to comprehend reality drives you mad, and sometimes maybe in a way that you forget some of the details because your mind just can't keep all of that together.
Yeah, for all we know, he was cursed. For all we know, he was cursed by that little girl.
Yeah, it was mentioned that he was treated for brain fever at the end of the story too.
Yep.
So he was at least sick with a mental thing too.
Well, again, that's what happens when you start interacting with things that that conflict with our sense of reality. Our brains just aren't set up to deal with that. That's Lovecraftian horror.
But it was also mentioned that Ketch's men also did find a cellar beneath the dollmaker's house full of creepy things. So, Ketch seems to believe him.
Yeah, I seem to remember something where he was saying the girl actually walked him through the bottom of that place, and it was all full of grisly, torturous devices type thing. So that was pretty interesting. But yeah, I think it was really well done, like Diggs said, in actually illustrating the Lovecraftian theme, and actually putting it in the world of Revival. So that was really cool, and I think that it opened up lots of different thoughts. I hadn't considered the one that Neuro said about, maybe he was just insane and it's just always been boarded up. That's another great one that I think fits pretty awesomely with the theme and feel of Revival. But yeah, anyways, a good blog. I'm actually looking really forward to Amba doing a lot more storytelling over. I believe this is a theme that they're going to kind of carry on for several weeks. Just keep doing different stories in the lands of Crown's Rock, and maybe in the wider world as well. But super excited to see some of the story getting done. That was one thing when we were following EverQuest Next / Landmark. For me, seeing the lore that they put out, like kind of the book forms, and getting to read about these characters and learn about people who are going to become important or who would be relevant in the future game, learning about them and seeing them put in tough situations and the depth of their character was always really intriguing, and I think only going to enrich the game. And I kind of see that doing the same here for Revival, and not just giving people a taste, but kind of enriching the experience when we get to that point. So very excited about that. But anyways,
hey, go ahead. I'm gonna jump in real quick. We've got Demontier joining us in chat, who is a new person that came in this week, I believe, in the forums and started some really cool threads. So it's nice to see we've got a newbie in our.
Oh yeah, that's chat. Right. I did see a couple of those. Well, welcome to the show, Demontier, and we hope you come back for future episodes. And thanks for participating in the discussion and also in the forum. So. The next topic I wanted to dive into, kind of to wrap us up here, is taking kind of the things we've talked about and then applying, the knowledge that some of the servers in Revival will have live storytelling teams, and we'll actually be doing a lot of basically what Envoy did with the blog. They'll be coming up with ideas for stories, events, and they'll actually be kind of manipulating some of the NPCs, or perhaps manipulating player characters through rewards or through items that may have curses on them or things like that to be catalyst for some of these cool stories. So the last topic I have here really to discuss is how do you think live storytelling will impact the larger meta story that's happening, and then how we'll see that affect mechanics of other systems. So,
well,
go ahead.
I could see a lot of things being done to make somebody, basically, like a hero-villain rivalry sort of thing, where you're always chasing the bad guy, they're always narrowly escaping. So a player is given purpose, a quest based on like who they are and what they've done before that point, where they're always trying to take this person down or whatever, and they just like barely fail to do it every time, or they succeed but they're not able to follow through with like finishing them off because of something or another. And then I even think of like almost the inverse of that as like the story of Sisyphus, but retold as Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner, that you're always trying to hunt this animal or whatever, but even with all of your preparation and everything, it's just got this most powerful of blessings that's always going to cause you to fail. And you're great for the economy because you are a rich character or whatever. You got a lot of money. You're buying all these traps. You're buying all this help and everything, and you become essentially like a comedic character in the game. So that's one of the things I could see, is just creating constant events for your character to keep having to pursue based on what they're trying to do. Or if you're a crafter, there's this weapon that you keep on hearing rumors about and the blueprint for it, but you can never get it. Like the last one just got sold to someone, or the guy who used to know it died in the last invasion or whatever, and so you can never find it no matter what you're trying to do. And it's just like this thing that irks you the entire time. That's the sort of stuff I can see the storytellers being involved with, even beyond like getting into the real supernatural stuff where you didn't realize that thing that you picked up in that graveyard is now transforming you into a hideous demon. Just shenanigans. Shenanigans are fun. That's a great way to give people a purpose in the world.
Yeah, I'm interested to see the way that live storytelling, or live storytellers, I should say, are going to be able to pick up NPCs, and because you can only do so much with an NPC as even an evolving type being in your world. Most of them are going to feel fairly static at some point. You'll go through the list Envoy mentioned, the seven aspects, the who, what, why, and all that. You can fill those out with the character, but they're eventually, there's only so much they can do. But having a live storyteller that can pick them up and actually take their goal, or one of their aspects of their character, and actually start working toward it and changing things in the world because that's that character's motivation, is pretty interesting to me.
Yeah,
I just wanted to say real quick, they shouldn't become too static, because the virtual DM will be changing their tags, so they should still be reacting to us fairly dynamically. I think the problem that we have to worry about in terms of becoming static is what happens with their dialogue. I don't really understand how the dialogue evolves, but since both the NPCs will have tags that will be changing dynamically, and players will have tags that are changing dynamically, there should be dynamic interaction going on constantly. I'm just not sure how that, again, plays out in terms of dialogue.
Yeah, I agree with you. I guess to make that more clear, I think, that they will change dynamically in the world as far as how we're interacting and how they're pushing each other around and players and influencing like that, but just their actual stories, like what they want to do, their desires, what's happening in their life, will be relatively static, I think, unless they have systems planned to cause those things to change.
They got tags for that.
Okay. So yeah, then that should be really intriguing
but
too.
Still, but
the dialogue.
Live storytellers are still going to be better.
Yeah, definitely.
They're still going to be better. No question about that.
I mean, I think of like something that tried to do somewhat, not necessarily advanced AI, but something where characters are always doing something that advances one of their goals or another is the Sims series. But as one of my friends pointed out, with The Sims, you're spending most of your days, and it's almost like a theme park MMO where you rest every 5 minutes. You spend most of your days eating and pooping, so you can't really get that much done because your character is mostly trying to stay satiated before they go to sleep at the end of the day. So it's kind of a hilarious sort of thing, but that's at least like kind of a rudimentary kind of attempt at what a lot of NPCs in a world could be doing. That there's at least a bunch of things that they have to be doing. They have to be eating. They have to be getting in their social interaction so they don't get depressed or anything. They have to sleep so they don't get exhausted, so they don't get totally fatigued, don't get sick and all of that sort of stuff. And then actually being able to act upon the things that they actually want to do, if they even have the time for it in between everything else. So, I guess looking at the Sim series, there are models that kind of exist for ways to try to make NPCs at least doing something that's, semi-meaningful, even if it's just relevant to themselves and their surroundings. Because what happens is when you introduce a player into that, or a bunch of players constantly all the time, is that it's going to throw all that stuff off. Maybe you give them some food or whatever, you buy them something to eat, and then their food thing is satisfied, so then they can move on to the next thing and actually help you out with something, for example. So, there's definitely a lot that, can be done to just direct NPCs and make them be doing things and almost be like, cells in the system that it doesn't, they're basically just continuing to try to reach equilibrium until there's some stimuli that tries to determine otherwise.
One thing that's been kind of popping up in the forums past week or so that I've noticed is this goes actually for NPCs and PCs both, is like the motivations behind their actions. It's like it came up, like I brought up like, well, why doesn't anybody care about why a bandit might actually be attacking a trade route? It's like, well, they're bandits, so we go out there and we kill them. Like, well, what if they have, like, what's the bandits' motives for that? Because it might be more than just like, hey, I'm greedy and I want to take stuff. I think the example I came up with, just as a kind of like proof of concept, would be what if the bandit came from a frontier village that was underguarded and constantly under attack by other bandits? What if he went to the city to try and get guards to come out and protect them, and the city said no? He might start becoming a bandit himself, raiding the city's caravans, so the city will be like, oh shit, we have a bandit problem, we should probably send out guards to take care of this. Bit of a roundabout way for him to do it, but it's a character motive. And it's just like, a lot of people have been responding to these points I've been making with, well, I don't care what your motives are, you attacked me. And I'm like, okay, but at the same time, you guys want story, and you guys want to have non-violent ways of conflict resolution. How are you going to non-violently resolute the conflict with that bandit unless you know that bandit's motivations?
Right.
What? I don't understand why you need to know the motivations in order to
How else will you do it?
Why do I care about the motivations? I can just character assassinate them because I don't like them. Why do I care about why?
Assassinate a bandit? What are you gonna do to character assassinate? Oh, this bandit's bad. They're bad. Don't be friends with them.
You're gonna tell the trees on them.
What's that gonna do to a bandit?
We're talking about like you're out in the wild.
I can say that the bandit is a murderer instead of just a thief.
Oh no, hold on, Dave.
So
you're out in the wilderness for whatever reason. You're accosted by a bandit. It's you and him, and if we look at real world terms, there's always a +1. So if there's him, if there's two of them, there's always a third one. There's 4 of them. There's always a 5th one. Whatever. So there's him, and you know there's always another one somewhere. And you're going to tell the trees on him. You're like, hey, everybody, all of the trees in the wilderness, this guy is a jerk. Like, that's, no, you're screwed. Like,
why are bandits only in the wilderness?
They aren't only in the wilderness, but I'm just giving this as an example. Or, you know, if a part of town where nobody is around, maybe it's like one of the farms that happens to be within the walls.
In this scenario, this bandit is on the frontier attacking caravans because there's no guards out there. He wants guards to actually come out and protect the frontier. Like I said, this bandit's actually from one of these frontier villages, and he got denied guards when he went to the city asking for help. So he's become a bandit himself to try and draw guards out.
Yeah, and so he's a thief, is what you're saying, but I could then say that he's a murderer.
That's fine. It's still going to get guards to come out for him.
Yeah, but the repercussions, I don't know, it's just weird because you don't seem to... You make everything ideal for the scenario that you come up with, but you never really think about the repercussions, like the temporal damage that's going to come from being convicted as a murderer. It's going to be worse than being convicted as a...
The guy's already committed to a life of crime to solve a problem.
Right, but he's a murderer. The repercussions of... Why would you not care about the temporal damage, about losing more of your life because you're a murderer than because you're a thief?
At
that point, you might as well just become a murderer too, right?
Exactly. He's already committed to this line of action.
Okay.
Well, how are you going to stop a bandit at that point? If this particular bandit, how are you going to stop him? Because character assassination, just calling him a murderer, it's fine. He's already taken that risk into account.
Well, is this bandit a player character or a non-player character?
I'm not sure if that even matters, actually.
It matters.
See, at this point, like, I can see you trying to pull, like, another card out, like, you know, what god do you pray to, or, you know, that sort of stuff, or trying to negotiate with them, or even, like, trying some completely different approach, like, man, what happened to you? When you were a kid growing up, is this what you thought you were going to be doing, robbing people on the street, and try to give, like, the, the passive professor approach or whatever. You might still get shanked and robbed at the end of the day, but, you know,
that might actually work. Well, since he is obviously a character with a nobler purpose, you might be able to guilt trip.
The reason that I think it's important to determine whether it's a player character or non-player character, because the non-player characters will be somewhat limited into, you know, the extent they're going to care about your retaliation. But a player character, if it's another player out there, whatever their motives are, you start, like Diggs said, you start, you know, painting them as a murderer. Maybe you see through their disguise. Maybe you have, like, some perception skill or whatever you can use to determine disguise. Maybe you see through their disguise. Now you know their real name, and you could start doing stuff. I mean, it matters a lot whether, and I mean, you guys might be right. It might not matter if it's NPC or player character. Maybe the NPC used to disguise, but having their real identity and being able to cause mayhem. Because I mean, think about this. You know their real identity. Let's say that the guy is successful. His bandit raiding causes guards to come out, and the enhanced protection in that area, that village is able to actually prosper into a town and a city. Maybe that guy becomes some influential person in the city, and you're able to expose the reality of what he did in his past later and, you know, bring about his demise because he really was being a criminal, right? So even though he brought good for the people, he ultimately has to answer to the higher authority, say if that town becomes part of a larger kingdom that the original city is like the ruling capital of. So I can see the layers to it, you know. It does matter, you know. But it's interesting because
there's also karma. We don't know what gods might send against that one person. Instead of having general guards or general guardians of that area, they could just be very specific to that one person. I mean, you don't know what the retaliation is going to be, but it doesn't have to be direct PvP combat from another player.
That's actually something I was trying to get at, though. You don't have to fight this bandit to stop him.
Yeah.
If you find out more about his motives.
It doesn't matter what his motives are.
It does matter what his motives are. If I found out that he was there because he was trying to draw guards out, I would probably actually try and help them in that case.
What
I
you
might
mean
try
is
and
that
get
for
guards to
some
come
people,
out there.
for some people it might, but that's not even close to being a general case.
I just find it really, really, really silly that people are saying they want more story, they want more RP chances and all this, and then they're like, well fuck character motivation.
I mean,
It depends on what you're doing.
there's one other thing, and I could see there being like maybe if you don't have specific options, even general options like trying to intimidate, bluff, negotiate, befriend, that sort of stuff. So with an NPC, you can at least try some general sorts of things, and maybe you don't have to, you don't get to fully like type out like, hey, I'm from such and such city, are you blah 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 or whatever, you know. And I could see that going like bluff could be a really interesting thing. You've got nothing on them, so what you try to do, you make something up like, if you kill me, my body explodes into giant spiders that are going to kill you and then hunt down your family. There's weird stuff going on in this world. They might believe you. Anyway,
I got a couple of questions real quick before we end, because I do have to actually go on time today. I'm sorry. I would love to go over with this topic, trust me. But I did see a couple questions. Jane Signal asked earlier, I don't know, but are there children NPCs? Reading the blog, I'm wondering if that's so. And I think there's a blog we posted in the chat, so you can check that out. There's a big discussion going on that. So I think that there will be children NPCs, but maybe we'll have limited actions. It just depends on what the developers consider more ethically good to do, even though it is an adult-only game. And then Dementier did a question: if an NPC or PC or player character has multiple specific tags that might trigger the acquisition of a third composite tag, i.e., do some tags have prerequisite tags before you can acquire them? So, yeah, that's a great one to ask the developers, because I think that I don't see why there couldn't be something like that. It would be interesting to have, you acquire this tag about, X Elder God, something, and then you acquire another tag about being a member of a certain order that, has to do with that god, and all of a sudden you have some other tag applied of some unknown, new thing that will cause new interactions to take place because you actually A, know about this god, and B, serve a certain order, something like that. So I could see examples for that, but I don't know if the details for that, unless any of you other guys have. I mean, I've been gone for a while, so you guys may have much more knowledge on what the developers revealed about tags.
I can't remember if there were anything specific like that, like prerequisites and hierarchy, but I could imagine there being different sorts of things, and then even more specifically, things that cause you to skip some of those. Like, it takes 6 months for your character to train magic before they learn, like, advanced wizardry or whatever, but for some reason, your character and something they did early on, or for some other reason, they were just born with it. They have advanced wizardry, but they've never studied magic. So they have this, like, spark of really ridiculous power that they've maybe touched on once or twice, but they don't know how to access and don't know that they have. So that's the sort of thing with the tagging system, for example, that I could see being really meaningful. So people might see that and think you're a wizard that's just pretending and wearing, like, a standard adventurer's clothes, but just one example.
Homeboy says that some tags have prerequisites, yes. And Snipe Hunter says sometimes having a tag and coming near someone else who has a different tag can spawn a new tag or tags on you too. There's a conditional system in place that triggers game effect packages attached to tags. So yeah.
Very cool.
All right.
Just quick, just because I have the floor, it's National November Writing Month. I posted the link in the chat for that, and Valix, you can talk a little bit more about that as you wrap up if you want to.
Yeah, so just like Dig said, National November Writers Month, I'm actually participating in this year for the first time ever. Have a big project I've been working on, so I have more than enough stuff to carry me through the 50,000 words and beyond, so it's all a matter of how distracted I get by being in the Revival forums again and things like that. So, no, but I'm going to try really hard, and if anybody else is participating in it too, I'm going to try to check that thread and update my progress, and if you guys want to share share thoughts or critique each other, feedback. I'm up for as many people as I can find the time to read their stuff as well. So always good, to keep that motivation up, working with other writers, and with the theme storytelling kind of hitting, and Om was going to be doing a lot this coming forward here too. Should be interesting to see different stories pouring out. I've shared a couple little character prompts that I did already. They were a lot of fun. So expect some more stuff like that from me. Whatever I can share, I will share out to the general public. So, but yeah, if you guys want to participate in that, go check it out. If you're not really someone to take on a huge task like that, just encouraging people or maybe giving them feedback on their stuff is super helpful for writers. So, but thanks you guys for tuning in today. We will be having another episode as usual next week, same time, same place. Not sure what the topic is. We kind of played a lot off the blog, but I'm going to get a plan together to have a kind of a cool show. So we will see you guys next week, and until then, see you in the forums. Ta-ta.
See you.
Later.